Hello and welcome to English with Justino, videos designed for you to learn English vocabulary, expressions, culture, and maybe even some grammar along the way. This video is for those already speaking English at an intermediate or advanced level. The idea here is to listen, read, and learn from a native English speaker in a natural way, the way you first learned your native language, by hearing it. Okay, forward we go. Enjoy! Alice's Wonderland Adventures, Chapter 6, Lesson 1. Alice was in the forest and discovered a small house in the distance. She was back to her normal size now. She didn't want to scare the inhabitants of the house with her large size, so she ate some more mushrooms and shrank back down small again. For a minute or two, she stood looking at the house, wondering what to do next. All of a sudden, a servant in a uniform came running out of the woods. Alice thought he was a servant because of his uniform. He was a very strange-looking man with a face of a fish. What did Alice do for a minute or two? Did Alice run straight up to the house? No, Alice did not run straight up to the house. Alice stood looking at the house, wondering what to do next. What happened all of a sudden? All of a sudden, a servant in a uniform came running out of the woods. Why did Alice think he was a servant? Alice thought the man was a servant because he was wearing a servant uniform. Was he a normal-looking man? No, the man was not normal-looking. He was strange-looking. The servant man had a face like a fish. He knocked loudly on the door with his knuckles. Another servant in a uniform opened the door. He had a round face and large eyes like a frog. Alice noticed they had powdered hair that curled all over their heads. She was very curious to know what they were up to, and she crept a little way out of the wood to listen. What did the strange fish-faced servant do? Did he kick down the door? No, the strange servant with a face like a fish knocked on the door loudly with his knuckles. Who opened the door? Did the queen open the door? No, the queen did not open the door. Another servant with a round face and large eyes like a frog opened the door. Alice noticed something about the servant's hair. What did she notice? Alice noticed that the servants had powdered hair that curled all over their heads. What did Alice do next? Alice was curious to know what they were doing, so she crept out of the woods to listen to them. The fish-faced servant began by producing from under his arm a great letter, nearly as large as himself, and this he handed over to the other, saying in a serious tone, "For the Duchess, an invitation from the Queen to play croquet." The frog-faced servant repeated, in the same serious tone, only changing the order of the words a little, "From the Queen, an invitation for the Duchess to play croquet." What did the fish-faced servant give to the other servant? He brought a letter to the Duchess. What did the letter say? The letter was an invitation from the Queen asking the Duchess to play croquet. Then they both bowed low, and their curly hair got tangled together. Alice laughed so much at this that she thought to run back into the wood for fear of their hearing her, and when she next peeped out, the fish-faced servant was gone, and the other was sitting on the ground near the door, staring stupidly up into the sky. What did Alice start laughing about? Alice laughed at the two servants that got their hair tangled together when they bowed. Did Alice run back into the woods? Yes, Alice ran back into the woods because she was laughing so hard. When Alice looked back, what were the servants doing? The fish-faced servant was gone, and the other was sitting on the ground, staring stupidly, or dumbly, into the sky. Alice went timidly up to the door and knocked. "There's no use knocking," said the servant, "for two reasons. First, because I'm on the same side of the door as you are, and second, because they're making so much noise inside, no one can hear you." For sure, it was very noisy inside the house. A constant howling and sneezing, and every now and then a great crash, as if a dish or kettle had been broken to pieces. When Alice approached the door, what did she do? Alice knocked on the door. When Alice knocked on the door, what did the servant say to her? He said it was no use knocking, because no one would hear her inside, because they were making so much noise. "Please," said Alice, "how can I get in the house?" "Actually, knocking might work," the servant said, ignoring Alice. "I will sit here," the servant remarked, "until tomorrow." Did the servant change his mind about knocking on the door when Alice asked to go into the house? Yes, the servant said that knocking might work, and that he was just going to sit there until tomorrow. At this moment, the door of the house opened and a large glass plate came flying out, straight at the servant's head. It grazed his nose and broke to pieces against one of the trees behind him. "Or the next day, maybe," the servant continued in the same tone, exactly as if nothing had happened. When the door opened, what happened? When the door of the house opened, a large glass plate came flying out straight at the servant's head. Did the glass plate hit the servant? Yes, the glass plate that came flying out the door grazed his nose, or just barely hit his nose as it went by, breaking into pieces behind him. Did the servant jump up in surprise? No, the servant did not jump up in surprise. The servant just sat there like nothing happened. "How can I get in?" asked Alice again, in a louder voice. "Can you get in at all?" said the servant. "That is the first question, you know." This was a good question for sure in this strange place, but Alice did not like to be told so. This is all enough to drive me crazy. Did Alice want to get into the house? Yes. Alice asked the servant louder how she could get into the house. Did the servant give her a straight answer? No. The servant asked Alice if she could get into the house at all, which was a strange question, but a valid one in this strange place. Was Alice being driven crazy? Well, this was all enough to drive someone crazy, but Alice wasn't crazy just yet. The servant seemed to think this was a good opportunity to repeat himself. "I shall sit here," he said, "on and off, for days and days." "But what should I do?" asked Alice. "Anything you like," said the servant, and he began whistling. "Oh, there's no use in talking to him," said Alice desperately. "He's a perfect idiot." And she opened the door to the house and went right in. The door opened into a large kitchen that was full of smoke from one end to the other. The Duchess was sitting on a three-legged stool in the middle, nursing a baby. A cook was leaning over a cooking fire, stirring a large cauldron full of soup. "There's too much pepper in that soup," Alice said to herself. She sneezed and could not stop sneezing. There was certainly too much pepper in the air. Even the Duchess sneezed occasionally. The poor baby was sneezing and howling loudly without stopping. The only thing in the kitchen that did not sneeze was the cook, and a large cat sitting on the hearth and grinning from ear to ear. "Please, would you tell me," asked Alice, a little timidly, as she was not quite sure whether it was good manners for her to speak first, "why your cat grins like that?" "It's a Cheshire cat," said the Duchess. "I didn't know Cheshire cats always grinned. In fact, I didn't know that cats could grin." "They all can smile," said the Duchess, "and most of them do." "I don't know any cats that smile," Alice said very politely, feeling pleased to have a normal conversation. "You don't know much," said the Duchess. "That is clear to me." The summary. Alice discovered a small house in the forest and then saw two servants talking to one another outside of the house, so Alice approached them to hear them better. They turned out to be quite crazy, and made no sense at all when Alice talked to one of them about getting into the house. There was tremendous noise and crashing inside the house, and a glass plate came flying out of the door and crashed. Alice wanted to get in the house, and she ended up just walking right in. The Duchess was nursing a baby, and a cook was in the kitchen cooking with so much pepper everyone was sneezing. Alice saw a smiling cat, and asked the Duchess why her cat was grinning. The Duchess answered that it was a Cheshire cat, and that they can grin. Alice did not know this and said it out loud. The Duchess answered that she didn't think Alice knew very much. That was clear to her.